Good evening, I'm Shane Jones, leading the news at 7. Public workers are expected to get a one-off interim cash payment. CBC understands this is what government has put on the table for hundreds of public workers this Yuletide season. This following over 3 hours of talks this morning between the NUPW and the Ministry of the Civil Service. NUPW General Secretary Rosalind Smith, who led the union's delegation, said the talks dealt with salary and non-salary issues, noting that they were hoping to put the proposal from government to their members this evening. But she stressed that this was conditional on the proviso that the offer would be in writing from the Ministry of the Civil Service. However, when she contacted the Civil Service Ministry about the written document, she was reportedly told that it was not prepared. As a result, the meeting scheduled for 5 p.m. was cancelled, pending receipt of the written confirmation from the Ministry of the Civil Service. Alison Fort led the team for the Ministry of the Civil Service. The two sides are hoping to return to the bargaining table in early January. The Barbados Water Authority is going after close to $45 million in grant and other funding from the Global Climate Fund and the Caribbean Community Climate Control Center to carry out a number of projects. Now, if successful, the BWA will be given $27 million in grant funding and another $17.6 million in counterpart funding, which it should be able to access from September 2018. General Manager Keith Roy Halliday met with officials from the fund and the Ministry of Finance yesterday to discuss particulars of the proposal. Mr. Halliday says the timing is apt, given the combined impact over the last year of the drought and hurricanes on the authority's resources.
It has really showed us that the level of preparedness that we should have, we are not yet there. It has showed us that the resiliency that we need to build into our systems and the network is not quite there. But the components as laid out by Dr. Keane, I found we are very keen on them. They introduced they're just an element of knowledge building, capacity building. We're just an element of decentralizing of storage and energy systems. We'll be very, very keen on working on the RE side particularly, and we would have already demonstrated capably, so I think, that we have a couple of PV operations going, and we really want to expand that to really prepare the Barbados Authority for being less resilient, less dependent rather, on the grid supply, and then to enable or to develop our resilient capacity as well.
The GCF was represented by its Senior Ecosystems Management Specialist, Patrick Van Lake. He says the fund is ready to help not only Barbados, but other islands of the Caribbean as they try to safeguard themselves against hurricanes and other disasters.
And have seen with our own eyes the havoc that has been wreaked upon the islands. And it's not just the immediate impact, but it's also the aftermath. I mean, we're 3 years on, and large parts of Dominica, for instance, are still without electrical power. So from our side, we are very ready to support the efforts of all the Caribbean nations to build on their public services infrastructure to make it more resilient to the impacts of hurricanes, but especially also to confront this long-term change brought upon the islands by climate change.
Government's move to increase the number of people on the National Insurance Schemes Board is being questioned by the opposition. The matter was raised during parliamentary debate on the National Insurance and Social Security Amendment Bill 2017. Finance Minister Christopher Sinclair says the intention is simply to add a representative from the Ministry of Labour under whose portfolio the NAS now falls.
The matter was brought to Cabinet. The argument was put by the Honourable Minister, who of course sits in the other place, and there was little that you could object to in relation to that argumentation, because there are a number of issues that come up on that board and in relation to that institution that directly impacts and impinges upon the day-to-day matters relative to labor and social security of the people of Barbados.
However, MP for St. James Central, Kerry Simmons, suggests the change is to increase government's influence on the board.
What we cannot afford is for what may at first blush appear to be just an adjustment to turn out in the end to be an alteration of a fundamental nature, an alteration of the balance of power on the NIS board, and see the board in fact become an extension of the ministry under whose jurisdiction it is founded, and worse yet, cease to be a separate and completely distinct fund in and of itself.
Housing Minister Dennis Kelman has dismissed opposition criticism of government's intention to add another member to the board of the National Insurance Scheme. Responding to the opposition's suggestion that the move would increase government's influence on the governing body, Mr. Kelman stressed that board members act in the interest of the institution.
Every member on the board serves as a member independent of who sent them, because they're supposed to serve the board. They're supposed to serve the board and not the person who's sending them to the board. So I do not see why the other member is worrying about the person from the Labor Department Secretary serving, because the person will be serving in their own right and not serving as a member of government.
An opposition member believes there is good reason to be concerned about government's intention to increase the number of people on the National Insurance Scheme's board. St. George South MP Dwight Sutherland says it has implications for the management of the scheme. He says that's worrying given government's failure to properly manage the country's financial resources in general.
Whether it is the sale of the NTCL, Mr. Speaker, whether it is the sale of the Hilton Hotel, Mr. Speaker, whether it is the use of NAS funds in Four Seasons, which I'll speak about, Mr. Speaker, whether it is the investment of 75% of the national insurance funds in government securities, Mr. Speaker, what is common, Mr. Speaker, to this government is the lack of financial prudence.
The appointments of 113 workers at the Sanitation Service Authority have been approved. The green light was given by Minister of the Environment and Drainage, Dr. Dennis Lowe, who has overall responsibility for that agency following recommendations made by the state entity. Dr. Lowe says the number includes all persons who served with the SSA for 5 years or more and are in positions that were unencumbered by any other person who might be on any type of leave, such as vacation or study leave. Dr. Lowe says he's extremely pleased this has been achieved, noting that it was an ongoing process for the last 3 months. He adds that there are valued workers who make up the family of the SSA and whose appointment in some cases was outstanding for a while. At a time when young men are often lambasted for being involved in deviant behavior and crime, 16 have been recognized nationally for their positive deeds. They have all received the Barbados Bravery Medal. Our Rianne Phillips spoke with 4 of them.
Dre Brown is all smiles as he has not one but 2 bravery awards. The first one came on Independence Day and the second a few days ago at the Barbados Youth Services graduation. He received them for saving a visitor from drowning earlier this year.
It has me feel astounded. Like, that's proud. I'm just grateful for it. I'm happy. All like positive emotions.
The double honor has been pleasing to Dre's mother.
It goes beyond the sense of pride. I mean, since then I have been beaming with pride, and every time somebody brings it up or I think about it, I just have this big smile on my face. And only today I was saying, thank God he made it to 18 and I didn't have to hold my belly for him. He has made me proud thus far.
Over in Bayville, 15 other males received bravery medals for springing to action when fire broke out in Jessamine Avenue back in September. It's a bittersweet moment for them, as unfortunately one house was destroyed by the blaze. However, the young men are grateful for the honor.
I actually feel great to receive the medal. Actually, it's a pleasure to shake the Cabinet General and the Prime Minister's hand.
I'm very proud of myself. I was frightened a bit because my house nearly catch, so I do my best and
try to out the fair. I feel very honored for the experience of meeting the Governor General and the Prime Minister of Barbados, and I also feel like I don't know how to explain it, but it's the first for me. I never been to anything like that in my life, and it was very new.
The National Independence Honours will be presented next year. Ryan Phillips, CBC News.
Dr. Winston Lane and Kurt Prosper are the first Barbadians to be ordained deacons of the Roman Catholic Church in 43 years. The ordination was given the blessing of the Apostolic Administrator of the Diocese of Bridgetown, the Most Reverend Dr. Charles Gordon. The two men entered the ranks of the clergy at the St. Patrick's Roman Catholic Cathedral. Both have been described as men who have generously given their lives to the service of the gospel. After the ordination, Deacon Dr. Winston Lane said he is ready for the new chapter of his life.
I dedicate my whole life to God. I know no other life really. I dedicate my life to God, and wherever He calls me and in whatever capacity He wants to use me, I'm willing. I surrender myself to Him.
Deacon Kurt Prosper said it is a dream come true, while admitting that he is a little nervous about what lies ahead.
It's a new step in my journey. This is something I've been thinking about for the last 20 something years. So now I've come to this point in the journey, and although I'm nervous, I'm very, very excited about it.
Okay, we'll take a short break here and come back with more news.
It's your favorite time of year again when everyone is cleaning and fixing and painting. So, are you holiday ready? Harris Paints is celebrating 45 years of color. Get 45% off all Perma products, 30% off all Ultimate Plus, and many more. Plus, for every $50 you spend, you get a chance to win a grand prize of $10,000 cash. You can also win one of 45 prizes of Farmer's Choice hams, gas and grocery vouchers, and Harris gift cards. Get holiday ready with Harris Paints, the Caribbean champions of color.
Mom used to scream about Dad's drinking. It drove me crazy till Mom went to Al-Anon. If someone's drinking troubling you, you might be surprised at what you can learn in an Al-Anon or Alateen family group from people just like you. Call 1-888-4-AL-ANON or go to alanon.org.
The Barbados Investors and Policyholders Alliance wants those 80 years and older to be considered among the first to receive their money. This comes in the wake of news that government has given the approval for a multi-million-dollar payout to thousands of long-suffering policyholders of CLICO. According to BIPA President June Fowler, the pensions and investments of these individuals matured back in 2010 and 2011. She believes having them wait any longer will be unfair.
We've been lobbying for this and pushing for this. We've not yet gotten a positive response, but it's something that we hope that the Board of Resolution Life and the management of Resolution Life will look at favorably in giving. We're asking favor for those persons who are 80 years and over, and those persons really who really cannot wait for 10 years. And more than likely, with those maturities, those persons really should be paid out once the monies start to be paid.
Ms. Fowler says VIPA will also ensure that preferential treatment is not given to the bigwigs.
Remembering that we have a representative appointed and approved by the court on the Resolution Life Board and also the holding company, the NLICO's board. So BIPA is in the mix and in the midst of everything that is taking place. So it cannot be any preferential treatment to any bigwigs.
Crime Stoppers Barbados is concerned about the level of violence being seen in schools across the island. And Chairman Oral Reid says he is in favor of police being called into schools to assist with conducting random checks.
We are of the view that this is absolutely necessary and that efforts need to continue to be made in order to engage with persons who function within the school environment, particularly those persons who are involved in the security practice, to ensure that they have the requisite skills in order to complement any subsequent action that may be taken by the police.
Mr. Reid says they have been trying to tackle the issue of violence within secondary schools over the last 5 years through their Cool Your Head program. He says they are currently in 20 schools and the program is being funded by the Sandy Lane Charitable Trust. Mr. Reid says they want to extend the program to primary schools and will need the assistance of corporate Barbados.
We are persuaded that we are on the right path in terms of addressing these incidents of violence, and that together with our colleagues who have partnered with us, that we can do an effective job as long as we have the support, financial and otherwise, to help us to take forward and to promote and deliver on these programs.
Christchurch Foundation said goodbye to one of its longest-serving teachers yesterday morning. Maura Graham, the head of Foreign Language Department, who has been at the school for 30 of her 39 years in the profession, was given a fitting farewell from the school, which included various presentations from students and teachers. The Trinidadian-born Graham says teaching is a realization of her childhood dream.
On behalf of the foreign
to have taught for so many years, 30 of them here at the Christchurch Foundation, I count as a blessing and a very happy time in my life. Today, the day has arrived when I get to realize another desire, to walk through the gates of the Christchurch Foundation School filled with God's grace and as ever with a smile on my face.
2 years after opening a daycare center for the elderly, the National Assistance Board is set to construct another one in the new year. The board's acting director, Colleen Walcott, says the new facility will provide relief to the Joyce Dunner Center in the Pine, which is at full capacity.
There is a need for daycare centers where you just bring elderly people during the day, and that model of care also serve the caregivers. They can go out to work knowing that their loved ones or their relatives are in a safe and a comfortable and in a structured environment with trained staff. So that was really the desire of the National Assistance Board, to expand our that's our latest project, and we would love to expand that project going forward.
The disclosure came on the sidelines of the 7th Restoration Ministry's International Annual Elderly Luncheon for 200 seniors. The church's senior pastor, Senator Reverend Dr. David Durant, gave the background for the event.
It's an event we have annually for the elderly and differently able. As you'll notice, not only elderly are here. We have a centenarian here, she's 101 years this year, and the other elderly from the various homes around, institutional homes around.
More groups have been making donations to the HIV food bank. Manager Stacia Whitaker made the revelation at the launch of Love Poetry and Song 2018. She explains that event has been a major driver of that effort.
The Love Poetry and Song promotion have also encouraged individuals, businesses, and organizations to inquire about starting a food drive or fundraiser of their own, towards also making their contributions as well. So thank you, Barbados Government Information Service, for encouraging other companies, ministries, private as well as public, to join in this fight against HIV.
Senior Officer of Health Dr. Anton Best is praising the event's organizers for helping to raise awareness about HIV and sexually transmitted infections.
Epidemics of HIV and STIs in Barbados occur within a complex social context. Therefore, it is here that Love Poetry and Song has its greatest opportunity for impact, as it can help us to gradually address structural barriers which predispose some people in our society to be more vulnerable to HIV. Love Poetry and Song also helps generate discussions on human rights, HIV-related stigma and discrimination, and other social challenges such as poverty.
A firefighter with more than 30 years in the service has been remembered for his ever-pleasant nature and his bravery on the job. Christopher Edwards, who was the station officer in charge of the North, was killed when he responded to an electrical fire at Station Hill, St. Peter in 2010. And this morning, members of the Barbados Association of Retired Fire Officers laid wreaths on his grave after a memorial service at the All Saints Anglican Church in St. Peter. Acting Deputy Fire Chief Errol Gaskin said he first met Officer Edwards when he was a recruit in 1985, and their relationship, while sometimes rocky, endured up until his death.
Was one of the bravest firefighters among that crew. I fought alongside him in fires like Penfold Street and other establishments like in Wildy, and he never backed off. He never turned back. That is, in terms of reflection, contributions that he would have made to the Barbados Fire Service, he put that fearless spirit into firefighting, and whatever resources that was there, and he always used to protect you as a young officer. He protect you in the field and in the social setting you go around. he torture you.
And Attorney General Adriel Brathwaite, who was a personal friend of the late Edwards, reminisced on some of his own losses and encouraged the firefighter's family, friends and former colleagues to continue to live his legacy.
Ours is to carry on, to build on whatever legacy that he left with us, and to make sure that when our time comes, that we ourselves have left a mark on this earth, and a mark not only with our family, but with our friends and colleagues. To the family, continue believing like I do, that there's life after death. Continue living the life that you have, and living the life in particular in Christ, and build on the legacy that Christopher left to us.
Still to come, a look at some of the stories making headlines across the region.
Meet a deal with StarChick. StarChick is here to make Christmas enjoyable for you and your family with the popular Meet a Deal special. Visit StarChick Extra Chip, Choices and Extra Choice to take advantage of amazing turkey, chicken and ham combination specials just in time for the Christmas season. These combo specials are flying off the shelf. If you miss this, then blame yourself. The three wise men came from afar, so be wise and follow the star and meet a deal with StarChick this Christmas season.
Mom and Dad used to argue about everything, especially about Dad's drinking. My family went from totally crazy to quiet, calm, and even peaceful when Mom started going to Al-Anon family groups. I wanted a better relationship with Dad, so I asked Mom if she would take me to her Al-Anon meetings or to Alateen. I'm sure glad I did. If someone's drinking troubling you, you might be surprised at what you can learn in an Al-Anon or Alateen family group from people just like you. Call 1-888-4-ALANON or go to alanon.org.
In Ghana, 2 city police officers have been sent on administrative leave following an internal investigation into the sexual assault of a minor who was in custody in August this year. We get more in this Javon Vickery report.
It was Mayor of Georgetown, Patricia Chase Green, who told Nightly News back in September that the matter was only brought to her attention through a newspaper article, and she had immediately ordered the chief constable to investigate the matter. Although there was a delay in the report to the mayor, the council decided to conduct an internal investigation into the matter. The rank in the center of the accusation, however, still remained on the job. But in an update, Acting Chief Constable Laurel Gittins told Nightly News that 2 officers, including the implicated rank, were sent on administrative leave, pending the outcome of the investigation.
What I've learned relative to those 2 individuals, Corporal Bavigans and Corporal Pilu, are presently on administrative leave. The matter is still engaging the National Police, and thus far I have not received any further information from the National Police as to the way forward in that matter.
Since the news of the allegation, the second of its nature at City Hall, Gittins told this newscast that ranks were sensitized about the sexual offences law and the dire consequences for perpetrators.
Helping them to understand that if such matter or such a juvenile are being arrested, we consult with the National Police and have that juvenile taken away almost immediately, or we consult with the relevant authority so that we can get away have information as to the way forward with those with such persons.
But the question still remains. Was this a practice before, or usually you would hold juveniles once they're there for wandering or any other offense?
No, it's not a common practice. Once a juvenile has been arrested and brought to our station, it's customary that we get on to their parents and then we get on to the Social Protection Agency, because we don't normally indict juveniles unless we get instructions from the relevant authority.
The minor, who is 15, was arrested in August for wandering and taken to the constabulary headquarters on Regent Street. It is alleged that while being there, he was approached by the male constable, who is a lance corporal.
Guyana's government has defended its socio-economic policies of the past 30 months. It says they had brought significant changes to the country. President David Granger, speaking during a wide-ranging news conference, says the country's economy had been prudently managed over the past 2.5 years and compared to the economic problems being faced by neighboring countries. He said Guyana had recorded economic growth of 3.1% and 3.6% over the last 2 years, and that many Caribbean neighbors had been flocking to Guyana. He added there are more than 20 Surinamese-owned companies operating in Guyana, while several huge Trinidadian companies have established a presence there as well. The Grenada Parliament has approved the Representation of the People Amendment Bill 2017. It amends the existing legislation that government legislators said was necessary ahead of the next general election constitutionally due by mid-2018. Health Minister Nicholas Steele, who tabled the legislation, said the amendment provides for the correct naming of the legislation on the forms and correct numbering of the forms used in an election. He said that the incorrect naming and numbering occurred when the then ruling NDC tabled several changes to the Representation of the People Act of 1993, including that of changing the name of legislation. The sports news is just ahead, but before we get there, here's a tip from Cooperators General Insurance.
This tip of the day is brought to you by Cooperators General Insurance Company Limited. Insurance the way you want it to be.
Always lock your doors when you enter your vehicle. This crime prevention tip is brought to you in association with the Royal Barbados Police Force.